why Jesus could speak about being born again. What gave him the authority to speak like that? Verses 11 to 13. Very truly I tell you, we speak of what we know and we testify to what we have seen, but still you people do not accept our testimony. I have spoken to you of earthly things and you do not believe. How then will you believe if I speak of heavenly things? Now this is a strange passage to begin with. Have you noticed how he begins with the first person plural? We speak of what we know. We testify to what we have seen. And then in the next verse, he switches to the first person singular. I have spoken to you of earthly things you do not believe. How then will you believe if I speak of heavenly things? Why does Jesus begin with the first person plural? I suspect it's because he's answering Nicodemus in his own terms. Nicodemus has said, Rabbi, we know that you are a teacher sent from God. We do. And Jesus now smiles at the end of this discourse and he says, Nicodemus, we know one or two things too, we do. Because quite frankly, no one has been to heaven to describe what goes on in the throne room of God. No one has been there to come back and tell us. But that's where I come from. Make no mistake, the reason why Jesus can speak so bluntly about the new birth is grounded in a revelatory claim. That is, a claim that what he's teaching is revelation from God himself. This is not one more theologian amongst theologians who like to squabble and write books. This is the claim of someone, in fact, who claims to have come from there, which is, of course, exactly what we saw in the last session. That is to say, God's own self-expression, his word, one with God, truly God, with God, yet God, in this complexity of one God who has become a human being. He has come from there. So he speaks with the authority of revelation. Now he says, in effect, Nicodemus, if I were to try to depict the throne room of God to you in all of its spiritual glory, you wouldn't have a clue. You're having a hard job believing anything I say when I'm describing things that take place on earth. That's where the new birth takes place. It takes place on earth. That's what Jesus means by earthly things. If you don't believe when I talk about earthly things, things that take place down here, like the new birth, how on earth are you going to possibly believe if I start describing to you the glories of the transcendent God? At the end of the day, to understand Christianity, sooner or later, you have to come to grips with Christianity's revelation claims. What do you do with Jesus, who claims to come from God, to be one with God, to give you information about things that you cannot otherwise have information about? No one has made a trip there, taken notes, and come back and filed a report.